All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track how's it go? We track Bitcoin as a, I don't even know. I'm basically looking at Bitcoin usually as an analog for the rest of the markets. And I completely forgot that because I don't do that during the live stream. You guys know that. This is a live stream. This isn't a pre-record. So I'm here live. And the title of this live is This is the Bottom. But it's not how most people think it is. This is the bottom. And so, everything about what happens now is so important because a change, a very clear change in the market will be discernible from here if I'm correct that this is indeed the bottom. We're going to look at how it's the bottom in Bitcoin, and how it's the bottom in a lot of altcoins. We're going to look at that how, because that how is very important. To just say it's the bottom, period, is inaccurate and misleading. It's misleading. I would say that it's important to identify and analyze what it means to say this is the bottom and why I'm saying expect to feel lighter, happier, more confident in this market. Because up until now, this market has been extremely difficult and very heavy and fraught with a lot of red candles, a lot of drawdowns. But this changes everything. This price action that we're showing, that we're seeing in the charts, changes everything, and that's what we're going to look at today. So, all right, let me do a quick check to see that everything's working fine. It looks like it is. Welcome. Hope everyone's doing well. It is, what day is it today? It's Monday. And yeah, this weekend we were looking at a likely, we had a long weekend, Independence Day. So Friday was observed as a holiday. Independence Day was Saturday officially. So we had a long weekend. And I was saying before this long weekend that don't be surprised if we see a low volatility uptrend. Okay? A low volatility, low liquidity uptrend where the price just keeps going up, although traditional markets are closing. That's what we got, actually. Okay, so you can see even when the market's closed, when the chart says it's very likely to move, you're gonna get that move. Still, this morning we got a close of any CME gaps that could have been left open over the weekend. And so you can see here, this is where we left the market on Thursday, I think. Thursday evening, came right back down to close any of those gaps. So there are no gaps. The uptrend took place, and now we move. All right. So let me just do a quick check of the comments. All right. Dmitry Lazarev says, all the casuals show up for long weekends. I guess I'm a casual. I've seen good action happen over long weekends. So I'm not saying that we always get stuff on weekends, but to say that nothing ever happens on weekends, you can backtest that and disprove it. All right. So how is this a bottom in Bitcoin? And I will be clear. When some colleagues, some, other analysts say, you think it's a bottom? I say, yes, it's a bottom, not the bottom. Extremely important. And to think that there's just the bottom and not the bottom is, you need to refine your outlook, right? Because there are significant bottoms. This is a significant bottom, and I'm not going to go over the analysis, again in its complete, in its totality, but essentially this is a significant enough bottom because you're looking at Bitcoin doing a move all the way up, likely to 6 figures. So if you're gonna go to 6 figures from where you're at right now at 60, you're looking at like an 80% move to the upside. So yeah, that is a bottom. It's a significant bottom, and it shouldn't be just ignored. Like, we're still in a bear market. Yes, we're still in a bear market, but within the context of the larger bear market, this is a bottom, not the bottom for Bitcoin, because it's really clear you have this massive drawdown, and then what we've been doing over the past, what is this, since February, over the past 160 days, we've clearly been putting in a pivot for this move, okay? But to think that the bull market starts here is a massive mistake, and I am not saying that. Please be clear. This is a bottom, not the bottom, but it's an important bottom because you have Bitcoin going all the way to 100+K, and many analysts do not see this. So many analysts will tell you, we're going down. Everybody sees this. Most everybody. I haven't met an analyst yet that doesn't see that Bitcoin has massive amounts of untapped liquidity between 40 and 50,000. But the question is, how are we going to get there? Most analysts are thinking we're either going to get there like this, like, with, very little effort to the upside here, and we're likely going to follow it up with a massive drawdown. A lot of analysts are seeing that. A lot of analysts see this. That's the move, and so they're extremely bearish. Now others are saying, oh, no, we're gonna go up to like 60 something or 70K or something like that, and then go down. I haven't seen anybody say that this is the move. And how do I get that? It's not from the news. It's not from some sort of fundamental thesis. Yes, you can look at the heat map and see a bunch of liquidity here, but that's neither here nor there, because who's to say when you tap that? This is pure technical analysis. So people who underestimate the power of good technical analysis by, just looking at the previous candles over time and how that affects your likely future outcomes for how these candles move, you can't see it. You can only see that Bitcoin is targeting 100K with real clarity by looking at the technical analysis. You can, see it through Elliott wave analysis, but also just basic support and resistance. Like I said in the previous video, forget any Elliott wave analysis. You just look at this as a pattern analysis where this was resistance, this was support. This is a very, very attractive level for price. Super attractive. And a good analyst will see that you have a massive pivot here. This is not just some little mini pivot. A massive pivot, the likes of which the impulse of that pivot is commensurate with the size of the pivot. Do you see what I mean? Like, nothing about going to 70K and stopping there and coming down makes sense, or going to 60 some odd K and stopping there makes sense. You need to go the distance. So very few analysts see that. This is why it's important to note that although we're still in a bear market, Bitcoin is at a bottom and is targeting on a higher time frame 109,000 by way of 75,000 and any other intra-wave retracements. All right, so that's Bitcoin. So it's a bottom, very important. Most people think you either have the bottom or you don't have the bottom. No, there is no such thing as the bottom here in this scenario until you get to between 40 and 50K. Now, when you discuss other assets in crypto like altcoins, and there are many altcoins, you can start talking about the bottom. And this is what is going to, so you're both going to get a change in sentiment in crypto from what you're going to see in Bitcoin. Because even if people are unsure about how bullish Bitcoin is, how steady and reliable it is going up, as it goes up, and like I said in a previous video, you're going to see a lot of people shorting all the way up to 109K. All the way up. I mean, all the way up, because people don't see it and they're convinced it's bearish. They're going to try to take advantage of their high time frame reads, even though they're seeing a trend. In their mind, it's clear to them, it's so clear to them, and it's been clear to them for a long time that 40 to 50K is your ultimate target. They're going to say, I know it's bullish on a short time frame, and I know it's moving, and I know, for instance, there are people that are bearish right now, even though it's a clear and easy to read fact that we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green daily candles in a row. We started this day today with a mini red daily candle, and it's now one of the most bullish hammer candles you can imagine. There are people still bearish against all of that information within the face of those facts. Why? Because the psychology of those analysts, of those traders, is that I've been looking at this chart for years, months, years, whatever, and I know that that is Bitcoin's final destination. And so they may not see this, and so they're just looking at this, they're thinking of this. So whatever happens here, they're just like, just short it. They're gonna short all the way up to 109K. Many people are not even going to get into this. And then the people that get into it, but they can't discern the fact that we're still in a bear market, are going to lose it all as we come down. All right, so that's Bitcoin. Now, altcoins, not all altcoins, but many altcoins are in the bottom. And the combination of Bitcoin going up 80% in a small time frame, in my crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation, I revealed my time prediction for this move, my specific time prediction for this move to take place, all the way up to 109K. I did thorough GAN analysis. Again, just to be very, very clear, I'm not a GAN expert. I'm an expert technician of the charts. I've been doing this for almost a decade. I would say I'm an Elliott wave expert. I would say I'm proficient in Wyckoff, but I'm just now learning GAN, and I'm discovering the power of his time prediction, not tools, but his methods for timing the market. Let's say it like that. And I got to the day, the beginning on June 1st, based off of what I learned in GAN. So I'm like, okay, why don't I try it again for the top of this move? And I did, and I shared it with my clients in crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation. Out of fairness for them, I'm not going to share this publicly, but as I said publicly prior in prior episodes, many people are going to be shocked by how quickly we get to that target. Many people are going to be shocked by how quickly Bitcoin gets up to 109. The idea of Bitcoin going 80% in a short amount of time is going to bring jubilation. A lot of people misuse the term elation or what do they call it in the market psychology, where a lot of people are ecstatic and like, you know, euphoric. They call it euphoria. That's not euphoria. Euphoria is like what you experience during the course of a proper bull market, where you've been going on up for months and months and months and months and months and months. And many people collectively experience making gains upon gains upon gains. A move, even 80% to the upside, is not what you would categorize as euphoric. You would say that is, you know, increasing or improving sentiment, because right now sentiment sucks. You can go on Fear and Greed, you could just look on Twitter, you can look at the comments of any YouTube video, you can go in any crypto Telegram chat, Discord chat. People are pissed because their portfolios look terrible, and all you see when you open up these crypto charts are red candles. That's going to change, and it's already started. So one of the reasons I'm saying the sentiment's going to change, the tenor in the crypto market is going to change, at least briefly, in Bitcoin, especially because of this move. And that started, and it started on June 1st. What's going to make it even better, and actually what's more important than what Bitcoin's doing right here, is what you're going to see in altcoins. And I'm not even going to show you the other chart, because you can't represent this on the other chart. The other chart doesn't do this justice. The other chart is a good indicator, but it's an indicator. It has blind spots. One of those is it isn't a faithful representation of every altcoin in the cryptocurrency space. There are certain cryptocurrencies, certain altcoins, that are at their bottom, period, full stop. They're at the bottom of their bear market, and they will not only, when I say the bottom, I don't mean the bottom level and then they have, like, you know, 2 weeks of consolidation left or a few days of consolidation. They're at the bottom and prepared to move impulsively to the upside. And so what you should be seeing, if I'm correct, in short order, within some hours, are multi double digit, so like, you know, yeah, multi double digit gains in a lot of altcoins, pretty much all altcoins. But there are certain ones that are going to go up even more than others because they're starting their bull market. Yet there are others that are going to do what Bitcoin does, meaning they're just going in a counter-corrective rally, and they're still in their larger bear market, and then they're going to make a lower low. That is a huge part of what I do in Crypto Portfolio Mentorship and Consultation Service. Anybody who signed up for Crypto Portfolio Mentorship and Consultation Service, that's probably one of the most useful things they've gotten from it, probably, is my high time frame analysis on certain assets, saying with a high degree of probability, based off of, you know, the 5-year chart or based off of the 8-year chart of this asset, you're going to enter a bull market with the next move to the upside. Or based off of the high time frame analysis, you're not even close, so don't bother. That is huge, because those assets that are entering their bull market now and that are going to, within the coming hours, experience those gains where we start smiling and hugging each other like the people in the thumbnail, and, you know, you think of your portfolio and you don't get some nasty feeling, and you start making plans again for what you're going to do with the money. That all comes as a result of seeing double-digit green gains day after day after day, giving you some indication that you're in a bull market. But do not conflate one market with another. Don't make the mistake, and this is huge. If you get anything from this live stream, understand that there is no the bear market, there is no the bull market. Every asset should be evaluated independently, because certain assets are in their bull market, others are still in their bear market. Although you're going to see in the immediate short term and medium short term everything go up. Although everything's going up, they're not all in the same phase. Huge. But because everything is going to go up in the medium short term, likely, just like you saw for the past 5 days, you should see that for a little longer. I'm not going to tell you exactly how long, I think. People are going to be happy. People are going to be happy. You, yourselves, who are watching this, are going to be happy. You're going to be happy. You're not going to feel stupid for investing in crypto. You're not going to feel like you're wasting your time or your life or your investment or your capital. That's huge. Sentiment is huge. It gives you hope. And that hope will give you plans for what to do next. But the best planners will say, hold up. If I'm looking at these charts, I see some clear bear market signals, right? On a high time frame. I can't get too comfortable, too complacent. Let me take profit here. Others are going to say, oh, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going to go YOLO. I'm going to sell the house and put it all in this. And then they're going to experience that. It's very tough. But all I'm saying is do be careful, because we're not in the part of, we're not at the point where everything's in a bull market. And there is no point where everything's in a bull market. There's never been a point where every single last asset in an asset class that have all been in a bull market or all been in a bear market. Things have their own rhythm. So very, very important. Now, if we look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, you can see that we're still playing at this level, which is the bottom of the 200 plus day channel here. 240 day channel. But importantly is the idea that we've broken down below the channel and we've retested the bottom of the channel as resistance. Remember, 2 things you absolutely need to do to break a channel. The first, you retest the midline, check. The second, you retest the bottom, if you're going to break down, the bottom as resistance before the breakdown. Both of those things happened, and so Bitcoin dominance is telling us that it's likely that at any moment altcoins go insane, generally speaking, and you start getting a bunch of gains in random altcoins. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's still chugging along, right? Lots of green. The other thing I want to say, what you should notice if you're paying attention, is that yes, this is a real bottom. Like, for people who don't understand why chartists, anybody who reads charts is bullish here on Bitcoin, let me tell you very simply. There's something called a bottom formation. These bottom formations sometimes look like this, like W, 2 vertices coming down, 2 rounded bottoms. Sometimes they look like, an inverse head and shoulders. But, one or the other is what you typically see, or sometimes you see some kind of cup and handle pattern, but you see a rounded bottom, some rounding features. If you look at Bitcoin's price action in the immediate short term, you'll notice the past 30 plus days right now have given you, let's make this wider, bigger. The past 30 plus days have given you this W bottom. And all you're doing in continuing to go up is completing this pattern, retesting it as support, and then continuing. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's, if you're a pattern analyst, you don't have to, you know, break out your protractor, you know, crunch any numbers to figure this out. You don't have to look at, you know, on-chain data or anything like that. It's really, really simple. Go on the 4-hourly time frame, go on the daily time frame, prove it to yourselves. You're making a very convincing bottom feature. And that's it. That's it. That's the read. And so you may not know exactly how high it goes, but you should be convinced at the very least that Bitcoin is bullish in the immediate short term and the medium short term. Furthermore, you have very clear indications of confirmed, I believe it's confirmed, let's check. Yeah, let's go on the daily. Yes, of confirmed bullish divergence. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I pulled out my stochastic RSI momentum indicator. You can use your regular RSI, but I like the stochastic RSI. And the way you read this is, you look at this vertex and you look at that vertex. This one is lower than that one. So draw an arrow like that. So the price is going down. Meanwhile, as the price is going down, the momentum is going up. Let me make this bigger so you can see. One sec. Do you see that? You see this bottom right here, which corresponds to this June 5th bottom. And then this bottom right here, which corresponds to this whole end of June bottom. You have, let me use arrows to be more precise. This is what we call confirmed bullish divergence. It's confirmed because the K and D lines are crossed. So it's confirmed. Meaning you should have known once this crossed, if you were an indicator guy, let's say you're not confident in your technical analysis reading skills, you would just read, you know, when the K and D lines cross and create bullish divergence, confirmed bullish divergence on the daily time frame, you know that your next move with a high degree of probability, never 100%, with a high degree of probability, is up. Again, this won't tell you how high, all that stuff, but you already know that in the immediate short term, you should experience bullish momentum in this asset, because here you have, I'm going to put the arrows in so people understand. It's just a regular, you know, this is a common, basic, simple, but effective concept in technical analysis of using divergence, right? This is what you call confirmed bullish divergence. And I prefer using stochastic RSI rather than regular RSI because I think it's cleaner and it still gives you very, very reliable signals. So you're going down in price, but despite going down in price, you're going up in momentum. That tells you that from these lows, you should have expected a rise in momentum. And that's exactly what you're getting. We're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. This is what I'm saying. Like, you have to read, you have to really, really misread the entire chart. Upward, up, down, and left and right to be bearish here. But I understand why certain people are bearish. You're blind to this because you're thinking about that 40 to 50K level that you've analyzed for months. I've done exactly the same thing. You literally have blinders, things that you could have read, you know, any day of the week in your sleep, you don't see because you're only thinking of that one level. And so everything else kind of gets by you or goes by you. So that's what I'm seeing. And this is why it's really important to try and check your biases. It's easier said than done, but as traders, as analysts, you try to think of what are you attaching yourself to. That's a difficult thing, because you got to kind of go through it and get lost and make the mistake, and then kind of figure out what you did wrong. In any case, let me check the comment for a second. Okay. All right. Wow, many comments. Dimitri says Trump admitted to rug pulling must be the bottom. I don't know. I don't trade news. Uh, Dimitri says we're back to 200-week moving average. Cool. Uh, so yeah, I don't know what support and resistance bars are, Dimitri. Paris in Black says the time has come indeed. Uh, Dimitri says, if you can see what people are thinking, you can just piggyback back off their analysis. Yeah, but then if their analysis is bad, then you eat that loss. I would always rely on yourself. I think that's always the best way. Um, the gaming land says pump it. Absolutely. Let's pump it. Right? So that's pretty much what I'm seeing. Um, so the gaming land M says, Dean, can you small time Elliott wave analysis lower degree? Yeah, absolutely. For Bitcoin, let's do that. Not gonna do timing though, but I can do the rest. Let's do that. We can do levels for sure. All right, let's do it. Actually, let me just keep the comment up and do it there. Uh um um. Okay, so I've got 100. I think I explained how I got 109. Um, it's a combination of things. I use basic support and resistance as well as GAN analysis to get 109 specifically. I Before I added the GAN analysis, just regular support and resistance gave me 107 thereabouts, but then I refined that target to 109, so it's 109 because there's so much confluence at 109 through the GAN analysis, which I'm not gonna do because the GAN analysis also gets into the timing of it all, and like I said, that's like high level analysis that I'm going to reserve for my clients. But I can show you what I'm seeing in terms of levels, right? And it's simple. So how do I get levels from a move like this? So first, I go into the smaller time frames and I pull out some so like an intraday, like a 4 hourly, right? And we saw that over the weekend and during the end of last week, right? June 1st bounce. It was the night of June 1st at 9 p.m. I remember it. And we got continuation into the long weekend, and then this morning. So what do I see here? This is interesting. This is very interesting because what I see are 3 pairs of AB bases. So a lot of times people talk about bottoms and tops as ranges. And you see what people call a Wyckoff accumulations, Wyckoff distributions, and you're always seeing a side to side range and then a break up or a breakdown. But in the real world, and this is why I appreciate Elliott wave, 2 degrees of AB basing, AB basing theory, is you're not always getting consolidation in orthogonal channels. Sometimes you're getting consolidation like drawn out. So this is the most bullish version of this bottom accumulation, sideways accumulation. So after the markup June 1st. We didn't immediately go into pure impulse. No, we did 1 degree of AB basing, right? So that's one pair, an A wave and a B wave, a zigzag. 2 pairs, an A wave, a B wave, and a zigzag. I hope everybody knows what I'm talking about. So A, B, A, B. All of this is A, and all of this right here. Am I looking at it wrong? Probably like this. Does that make sense? You're basically putting in, and this is the power of AB-based theory. You can't read this in Wyckoff. It just doesn't work. It's hard to, it's just too, it's too up and to the right. It's too drawn out. But with uh, AB-based theory, you can just read it all the same, whether it's sideways orthogonal, whether it's up and to the right, stretched out, super bullish. You can read A wave, B wave, A wave, B wave, A wave. So this is right here, this right here that we got over the weekend. That's the beginning. Don't be surprised if we come all the way back down here. And that's your pivot, if you will. That's your last pair of AB bases. After that, and I would imagine, so what you can do here is this, very simply. Having identified these patterns, you already know what you're looking at. You know that this right here is likely some sort of A wave, and what you're in right now is going to look something like that as a B wave. Okay? So you already know it's likely that you revisit 61.4, thereabouts. Once you get back to 61.4, then you can resume your actual impulse. Do you see how the impulse doesn't start? Do you see how I have 0 or the beginning of the wave down here? Even though you can say, oh, the impulse started on June 1st. No, it didn't, because that's still corrective price action. You don't get into pure impulse. Bitcoin's not yet in pure impulse until this pivot completes back at 61.4 likely. Because why 61.4? Because it's a 618 of that last advance. And then once you get that, I think it's quite clear. You're headed up to 75 or 76. And 76 retracing is going to give you your massive inverse head and shoulders, cup and handle, whatever you want to call it. You see? These reversal patterns, these bottom patterns, always they always show up. So you can look at it as a resulting cup and handle. You can look at it as a double bottom or an inverse head and shoulders, right? Something like that, rounded bottom. That's what I anticipate. So my first target is 75 after that retest. Okay, and obviously you have some resistance here. This is the 66K level. So if you want to go into smaller degrees, don't be surprised if you come down to 61.4, you go up to 66, you bounce, and then you make your way up to 75 and eventually. All right, so that's what I'm seeing on the smaller time frames, and then the rest is, you know, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. My target again is 109. I hope that helps. So Gaming Land M says, makes sense and doesn't at the same time. I agree the price doesn't look impulsive. It's choppy even though it's going up, but A-B basing is really hard to count correctly, so it's a bit tricky. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not... It is... I'd say it's the most challenging feature of Elliott wave analysis. Hands down. Easy. It's probably one of the most challenging features in all of technical analysis that I know of. You know, I'm working now with Gann squaring and stuff like that. It's not rocket science once you get the hang of it. But it's so... There's so many different ways corrective price action can take shape. Making sense of AB based pairs is very tough. Very tough. But yes, there is such a thing as choppy impulsive price action, but then you also have to use your experience to understand, all right, is this pure impulse or is this still correction? Because you'll know, I'll tell you how you know. For sure, if your wave 1 and your wave 2 don't take the same amount of time, more or less, you know you're not in pure impulse. If this were really wave 1, wave 2 would take just the same amount of time, and it didn't. So that's the first thing that jumped out to me. It's like, no, that's not pure impulse. Even though this B wave comes down to around the 618, I know it's not pure impulse because I can see I took 1, 2, 3, 4 hours to go up in this first wave up, and I took a lot longer to come down. That doesn't work like that. There's symmetry in wave 1 and wave 2 at the beginning of an impulse. So I know that's AB, so I start counting AB, and then I see some more. That's clearly not pure impulse. There's no time component, or there's no like one-to-one time component between these two, and I usually get a sharp correction for wave 2, so I know that's not wave 2. I know that's again an A wave and a B wave, and so I'm already at 1 pair, 2 pairs, and then I know this obviously is in advance. I can recognize on the small time frame some toppiness. I can recognize on the high time frame that if I zoom in, I'll see a head and shoulders bearish reversal pattern here. So I understand that that's my initial break of structure. That's my A wave. That's my B wave. This is my C of my larger A wave. This is tough. Corrective patterns, if you can read corrective price action, that's the highest level because it's the most complex shit. I don't even know. It probably sounds like gibberish. It probably doesn't make sense. I'm talking you through it, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, what the hell is he talking about? You tens of thousands of hours of chart time for your eyes to even see and understand this stuff, and for you to be comfortable with that, and then backtesting, and then personally, I did a lot of cataloging. I'm saying, all right, is there a time relationship between this A wave, B wave, all that stuff? Just a lot of time spent looking and staring at this stuff and trying to understanding and measuring things and saying, oh, did that breach the 618 or the 1618, stuff like that. So I know, just from my experience, this is A wave. I know I'm waiting for something like this, a B wave, right? I know my B wave isn't going to be just one line, okay? My B wave is always going to be composed, and it's likely, just by, in my experience, going to take longer than my A wave. So just from experience here, I know that this A wave, or what I'm calling an A wave, this purported A wave, initial break of structure, and when I say initial break of structure, I'm talking about the break of this right here. This is my advance. That's a corrective uptrend. This is the break of that structure. And I already know that this is corrective. It's not, there's nothing purely impulsive about it because my A wave never comes down to the 618 in one go if it's... Hold up. there's a chance this actually may be more likely than not. There's a chance everything I said is accurate, but there's a chance we're already done. And this advance was corrected upon already with this A, B, C. There's a chance. And there's an actual good chance. You know why? Because when you pull your fib, you already hit that level. I think this is more likely the read, the more accurate read. And I'll tell you why. Once you hit certain levels, it's important because that's where the liquidity is grabbed for the next move. Typically, A waves don't come as deep, right? This is the final, if this is really a zigzag, this is the final target. Very rarely do you see something like this. It's possible, but it's rare. It's rare. Usually there's no reason to dip into that level of liquidity twice. It's possible. I've seen it before. Let me look at the time. So this advance was 2 days and 10 hours. This retracement 1 day, 20 hours. See, this is tough. This is tough, but these are real world problems that you have reading corrective price action. Let me put this in properly so everybody knows what the hell I'm talking about. And this is so let me put a path tool first on the advance, or let me just put an arrow. Okay, so I'm looking at this, and my problem is, if you don't know, I want to understand how price retraces upon that. Everything that you see, every action has a reaction. Everything happens in pairs. There's an A wave and there's a B wave. There's an X wave and there's a Y wave. There's an uptrend and there's a correction and there's a counter correction. There's an uptrend and there's a correction. So this is the uptrend that we experienced, that I've identified based off of, identifying this and that, whatever. And now I'm trying to identify the correct retracement, the correct correction of this uptrend. It can be just this, but instinctively I felt that this wasn't it. Instinctually I felt like my first reaction and I trust, having done this for so long, I've written in my trading journal, trust yourself, because there's some part of you that processes beyond your conscious awareness and it speaks or acts. You shouldn't second guess that so much. So I'm going to really consider the first thing I said. I'm going to consider the first thing I said very seriously, because the look of this looks unfinished. I know that sounds like a weird, bad explanation, but again, Bob Prechter in his seminal work talked about the right look. And after, spending tens of thousands of hours, years, decades of looking at these charts and studying patterns, there's a part of your processing ability, your brain, your cognitive function that recognizes patterns beyond the conscious awareness, and you understand what looks correct and what doesn't look correct. And if you were to work on it long enough, you could work out that you're recognizing mathematical patterns and mathematical proportions or whatever, but at the end of the day, you could just say it doesn't look right. And so you shouldn't, an experienced chartist, when they think or feel that something doesn't look right, they should take that very seriously. That was his point. So to me, this doesn't look right. I want more. I need more. This doesn't look right. I'm not comfortable with it. It could very well be it. Technically, I've got my advance and I've got my 3-wave correction. That could be the 3 waves. This goes back to what Gaming Land M said. These corrective patterns are so tricky. I don't even know. I hate them. Yes, because technically speaking, you're just looking for a 3-wave move. There are no rules to say that that technically cannot be the end of this pair of corrections, and so then you can continue. But I don't like it, and I'll tell you why I don't like it. And actually, let's go into why this is likely right now. This is why, and the more I talk about it, the more I'm talking myself into this instead. I'm waiting for something like this in Bitcoin. But understand that if I'm correct in my overall thesis in crypto, that we're going into an alt season for many altcoins. Where the hell is this tool? Oh, here. What you're going to see is as this B wave sorts itself out, whatever it chooses to do, however it chooses to express itself as a B wave, and it can do that in a myriad of ways, you're going to see altcoins just continue to do their thing. And then ultimately, when this C wave correction takes place, then they're going to also retrace. That is, I think, the most likely scenario. And that also can explain why Bitcoin can go up a measly few percentage points to, its next resistance at 66K or 75K. Meanwhile, those altcoins starting their alt season are going up 50, 60, 70, 80, 40% or something like that. Okay? So I like this more and more the more I talk through it. This is my A wave. This is the beginning of my B wave. And now I'm going to use some indicators to see if this... So now, basically, our task is what? To disambiguate this right here. What is this? Is this pure impulse? Is this going to continue up, break resistance right here, and continue to the upside, hit our next target at 66K? Or is it going to retrace upon itself, hang out, do that? Is it pure or corrective? So to answer that question, let's jump down into the smaller time frames. People ask, oh no, you shouldn't trade the smaller time frames. That's for degenerates, whatever. It's very useful for exercises like this one. On the small time frame, and I'm on the 15 minute, and I think that's plenty small, I'm seeing strong evidence of pure impulse here, right? What's the evidence? I've got a clean small time frame bounce, one candle into support. I go up for 2 15-minute candles. I go down for 2 15-minute candles. That's what I look for, if it's pure or not. And then I continue to go up. I never retrace beyond 0.618. I'm bull flagging over here at resistance. Looks pretty good to me. But I've also seen in my almost 10 years of doing this, when it looks good, even on the small time frames, on the second time frame or some infinitesimally small time frame, you have a flat correction in there, and then boom, you can get something like this. So I'm not going to only trust the fact that I'm seeing a 15-minute, hammer candle to start that wave. The other thing I want to do is, if this is pure impulse, do you know what? I'm not stopping at resistance. Okay, one of the definitions of pure impulse is what? you're breaking the next logical resistance and retesting that resistance as support. One of the definitions of a bearish trend or impulse is what? You're breaking the next logical support level and retesting that support level as resistance. So bullish, you're breaking the next logical resistance, retesting it as support. So if I was really bullish, if this were really the one that's going to 75K, I'm looking for this. It's not asking questions. It's not asking for permission. It's breaking and it's retesting. Just out the box. And it can still do that because you can see on the small time frame it's bull flagging here, but it's taking quite a long time for, you know, some measly resistance. So jury's still out. But what I would want to see if this were pure impulse is an influx of volume. I've talked about volume, how I'm not a big believer in volume in crypto, but when it comes to Bitcoin on a big exchange like Binance, I will buy it. Look at that. On the hourly time frame, what do you see? There's a volume spike at the bottom of this. So from a volumetric analysis, it says that this is pure impulse. The small time frame analysis, it looks like pure impulse to me. I've got, you know, a clean dig into support right at the 618, and I also retested the 618 all the way down to the 618, and I'm bull flagging at resistance. I know it doesn't look right to me, so, but when I like break it down and I pull out my indicators, like my volume indicator, it's telling me this is, there's more chance of this being pure, meaning this is finished and this is continuing here, continuation up to 66, 67, then a retest, and then continuation. All that to say, I was torn, but the last few bits of data are telling me that I would not fade this. This is likely to break because the small time frame, it looks like a bull flag. When I see volume and I see consolidation at resistance, going back to that 15-minute time frame, consolidation at resistance, bull flag at resistance, yeah, that's likely to break. That's my take. I was like 40, 49, 51. But now I'm like 55, 45. This is pure impulse. Okay, that's my small time frame analysis. I'm sorry that didn't take, that wasn't, you know, I didn't know the answer, but that's like exactly how I do it. I work through it. I look at these things and I work through it. And I pose the same questions and I try to answer them, and that's how I would have answered it if I were just alone, not on stream. But I hope that was helpful, just, you know, exposing my method. Okay. Dimitri says low volume correlates with high price movement. Sometimes, yeah. Les Vibes asks, how long can alt season last? If we backtest it, historically, these things last about a year and a half, something like that. Up to 2 years. We don't know. Dimitri says, I think it basically means the regular players are tired of moving buy-sell walls. No. Every consolidation is a low volume consolidation. Right? Volume is relatively low when you're chopping. That's just a feature of price action. There's not always a narrative. I know we are storytellers as human beings. We always make stories for ourselves, for others, for events. And yes, you can say when you see low volume, it's usually in consolidation, and consolidation usually means people are trying to figure out, all right, should I buy or sell here? And people are buying and selling, and, you know, there's no real clear there's no real clear winner in terms of the buyers or sellers, but it's not deeper than that. It's just that's a common function of price action. All right, so that's pretty much it. That's the high time frame analysis. That's the small time frame analysis. That's what I feel we're going to do with Bitcoin and altcoins. So I hope that helps, and I hope that I'm correct and the sentiment in the market changes, your personal sentiments change, you make a lot of money, and you start making a lot of money, or you start seeing the potential of making a lot of money because you start seeing some green in your portfolio finally. All right, that's it for me. Take care. Thank you for joining. Bye.